Today, I'm going to share my top 10 list of the most exciting gi competitors that I like to watch right now. Hey everybody, my name's Paul Federici. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under PJ O'Sullivan. I train at Pura Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Hamilton, Ontario, as well as Parabellum MMA in Oakville, Ontario. And I'm coming to you again live from my COVID bunker here in Grimsby, Ontario. Here again with another Q&A to answer some of your questions. If this is the first time you've been to this channel, please take a second to click the subscribe button below. If you're already a subscriber, please click the bell icon, turn notifications on. That way you'll get a message anytime I release a new video. This is part 2 to a question that I received a couple weeks ago from Grappling Canada Variety Channel. So thanks so much again, guys, for reaching out to me. They asked what are some of the up-and-coming Canadian BJJ athletes that I like to watch. Again, this is a tough list, so it's not going to be ranked in any particular order. 1 to 10 is arbitrary. I'm going to try to narrow this one down to people that are more local. It's a little bit easier to do that. I also posted a video sort of as a part 1 response that I'll post a link to right up here. And in that video, I break down the top 10 most exciting no-gi grapplers that I like to watch right now, again, also being local. This time around, unfortunately, these are not a lot of people that I've directly trained with. There's one guy on the list that I had actually competed against, so that's kind of cool, so I can give a bit more insight into him. Some of these names are going to be no-brainers. Some of these are people that are already well established, so I wouldn't classify a lot of these people as up and coming. These are going to be people that I just generally find exciting to watch and people that I don't want to miss when I see their name on a bill or in a tournament. The other thing is I'm going to throw in a few people that I think you'd consider maybe more like up and coming, so a little lower ranked. And I also am going to include a couple of masters levels competitors, okay? So I think there's a ton of amazing jiu-jitsu that's happening across a variety of age groups, and so given that I'm a masters level competitor, I feel it's only natural to give a shout out to some of the older guys that are doing great things for the sport. All right, so without further ado, let's get to our first name here. So number 1 on my list is Graham Peckham. This is a young guy. He's 26 years old. So Graham is a very recently promoted black belt under Gringo. So he trains under Cicero Costa and out of Action Reaction. And a crazy resume at such a young age. He's gold at the Ontario Open recently in 2019. He's medaled at the American Nationals. He's got, silver at no-gi pans, at purple belt. He's a regular on the big stages in the IBJJF Worlds, Pans, a real consummate competitor. But what I like about Graham is there's always a lot of action in his matches. I tend to be a guy that's more partial to people that are going out there, attacking, looking to submit, looking to finish. To me, Graham strikes me as the kind of guy that does that. I think, especially at his earlier belts, this guy that was tapping out like everybody, I think he had a crazy finish streak there for a while. And, he's the kind of guy that's going to attack head to toe. What I really like is he seems to have this really cool sort of loop choke that he works from almost sort of like a foot on bicep or almost like a lasso guard, where he almost seems to get more leverage by driving his leg over the top as he's lacing it through. Really sneaky, super dangerous. I mean, I've seen this guy put, high-level competitors out cold in matches at the, some of the biggest tournaments in the IBJJF. He moves like a cat out there. I think he's a great athlete. The other thing is, I think he competes around lightweight or light feather. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think people sometimes quite understand how difficult it is to win at the highest level of the sport at the lighter weight classes. I'm a guy that struggled with my weight my whole life. I've had kind of an interesting experience. I've competed as light as about 150, 155 pounds. I've competed as heavy as 200 plus pounds. So I've been everywhere in between. And the one thing I can say without doubt is that the lighter you get, the more technical the matches become, the more conditioning plays a role. These guys are assassins. They are technical wizards, And for a guy that's going out there and putting it on these guys and winning at a high level at a lighter weight class, finishing guys, I have nothing but respect for that. Graham, I really think the sky's the limit for this guy. I'm really excited to see what he does as a black belt. No doubt some major medals coming his way. And again, someone you've probably already heard of, but if not, make sure you keep an eye out for this guy in the future. All right, number 2 on my list is another stud that most people are going to be aware of. His name is Nathan DeSantos. He trains out of Toronto BJJ. He is a black belt. This is a guy that's a world medalist, Phan medalist, Europeans, North American. He's a slightly bigger guy, so unlike Graham, he's a little heavier. I think he competes around medium heavy. But he's a bit heavier on the scale. But what I like about this guy, I think he's actually competed as heavy as super heavy. But what I like about this guy is that he doesn't have sort of necessarily a bigger guy game in the sense that he relies on just strength and position and holding people down. He has real agility and athleticism, and he has what I would say is like this elite smoothness to his game. Like, he just makes, incredibly intricate and complex and difficult sort of positions and scenarios play out in a way that you just can't appreciate unless you've been doing this sport for a very long time. He's a real precision grappler. He seems like he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. This guy can do just about everything. So he can blend this kind of finesse and slower pace with a real gritty, sort of athletic, explosive pace as well. And again, I think that that's something that you can train your whole life, and some people just never get there. So a lot of people just develop kind of one gear. And so to see a guy that's a little bigger with this kind of, athleticism, agility, precision, it's really fun for me to watch those kind of people. One thing that I saw online that I really like, if you could almost capture what he's like in a 1-minute video, he fights a guy named Khalil Nascimento at the Miami Spring Open last year, 2019. And it's the final, and it's this 1-minute clip, and it's him, going from passing De La Riva into a leg drag into this, he forces his opponent to sort of turn and turtle, and then he does almost this like incredibly sort of technical truck roll to the back. Again, just so much technique and so much precision and high level jiu-jitsu in like a 1-minute clip. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest looking it up. Really, really cool. I've seen, unreal highlights of this guy dismantling, elite grapplers at pretty much every belt. And the other thing that was really impressive too was watching him compete against, Muhammad Ali in the open class. So first off, I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that not only dominate their own weight class, but then are game enough to want to jump up and compete against some of these monsters. And again, that's not always something that's super common. I know a lot of people like to kind of stay in their comfort zone, stay in their weight class, especially when they're very successful. But Nathan just seems like the kind of guy who just wants to test his skills against the biggest and the baddest people on the planet. And again, this is at the Boston Spring Open. I think it was the absolute final. He ended up losing, but it's hard. It was hard for me to sort of look at that match as a loss. He just displayed unbelievable sort of reverse De La Riva work. He transitioned sort of effortlessly between, close guard, lapel guard, just outstanding guard retention against this behemoth of a man that, is, one of the highest level black belts in the world. And again, to be able to do that and to sort of look cool and calm and composed is just very few grapplers ever get there. So again, that's another piece or a video that you can check out online. Just incredible work from Nathan. Never met the guy, but by all accounts, just an elite level grappler, one of the best in the country. Definitely check out Nathan. I'm always pumped to see him compete, and no doubt he's going to continue to push the boundaries and find himself on some, huge podiums in the future. All right, number 3 on my list is James On. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt now. Again, another recent promotion under Gringo. What's really cool is he is more of a master's level competitor like myself, so I've had a chance to sort of watch him compete against teammates. I've seen him compete live. I've watched some of his matches online. Again, a real impressive resume. 2019 Ontario Open black belt, lightweight with all finishes. 2019 provincials as a brown belt. He won against a combined division with both brown and black belt. So again, a guy who's been performing at a high level for a very long time. 2019 IBJJF no-gi gold pans. British nationals in the Gi silver. So again, a real guy I admire people that are versatile and can compete gi and no gi, and this guy is doing it on massive stages in both arenas, both styles of jiu-jitsu. It's really hard, in my opinion, to stay that sharp at both. And so to see a guy like him going out and having that kind of success at both is really impressive. So what I like especially about James is he's a smaller guy, and he is just a true technician on the mat. He just seems to have back takes from almost every conceivable position. Like, it's sort of like entering the Matrix, and you find yourself, you think you're okay, and you think you're passing, and then suddenly he's on your back. I also saw him, a guy that has great guard work, but I also saw him hit a flying triangle at the 2019 provincials at brown belt. So a guy that, can play off his back, sweep you, take your back, choke you. This is a guy that is willing to go out there and try to throw up some highlight type finishes. So again, that's the kind of spirit that I really like to see in grapplers. I saw him also hit in one match. Someone was attacking a toe hold, and he just, in defense, had this crazy berimbolo to the back. And the look on the guy's face was like, what the hell is happening? And so, he's kind of like a magician out there, and I think it's really fun to watch. Another guy with sort of a real action-packed style, a lot of movement, a lot of transitions. Again, somebody that I really respect in the Masters division, Masters level, going out there, doing great things, and somebody that I don't really ever want to miss when I see him competing in a tournament. All right, number 4 on my list is a young guy that I would throw into maybe the up-and-comer sort of category. His name is Brandon Manarin. He is a newly minted brown belt, training under Richard Nanku with Troop MMA, who I believe are now a Gringo affiliate as well. This is a guy that I actually competed against in my first tournament back from an 8-year hiatus. And he beat me, and he gave me a rude welcome back to competition life. I almost like to call this kid the silent assassin. He's kind of a quiet kid, but make no mistake about it, he's a fierce competitor, an incredibly technical and game opponent that has a lot of skills. So that's where I first met Brandon, probably early 2019, maybe late 2018. But what I really like about him is I've had a lot of interactions with him since, and he's a really good kid. He seems very humble, very quiet, but there's a confidence underneath him, and he's a real natural competitor. I think he doesn't do a lot of, talking necessarily, but I sort of respect that because he goes out there and he just lets his jiu-jitsu do the talking, and believe me, it says enough. It's a guy that won bronze at the No-Gi Worlds at the end of the year. I had a chance to see some of his matches, and just great relentless passing, back takes, just a guy that just seems cool and collected under pressure. I don't think he got any points scored on him in his first 3 matches. So, a guy that's going out there and dominating at the highest level, again, at the men's level, at the purple belt level. There's a ton of killers out there. There's a ton of talent, and he kind of made it look easy, to be honest with you. A kid that has great scrambles. I know this is more no-gi, obviously, but what I like about Brandon, though, too, is that you'll see him at tournaments doing, gi, he'll do no-gi in the same day, he'll do his division, he'll do absolute. This kid is just a gritty, natural competitor, and he just doesn't seem to get tired. I watch this kid just go and go and go, and he just seems to have a never-ending gas tank, which I think is really impressive. But he brings a great pace, a real high grappling IQ out there. Another kid that's young, like he's already feels like a seasoned competitor. So I really like to watch his matches. Brandon's the kind of guy that it doesn't really seem to matter where he competes, whether it's gi or no gi. He's either, at or near the top of the podium. And I tend to root for people that aren't brash trash talkers. So it's cool to see a guy that has a real sort of quiet confidence to him. And I have no doubt that you're going to see some big medals coming his way at brown belt and eventually black belt. So if this isn't a name that you're as familiar with, when you see his name in a tournament or whatnot, definitely check it out. A lot of great action in his matches and somebody that I think you should keep an eye on in the future. All right, number 5 on my list is a girl that trains out of Gringo Action Reaction. She is, again, a newly minted brown belt, or relatively newly, I should say. Again, a name that I'm sure you've heard many, many times by now, and if you haven't, you're missing out. Her name is Janine Mocaiber. Already a crazy resume. 2019 Ontario Open, double gold at the purple belt. Again, another competitor. I'm partial to people that want to go and compete in their division and absolute. She is fearless. She's a world champ, I think. I'm not sure at what belt level. She's a Pan Am gi and no gi champion. Again, I like that she's very versatile. I've seen her compete in the gi. I had a chance to see her compete in no gi. She got a great rear naked choke win, I think at Parabellum Quintet too. But what I really like about her is she's a really sort of hard-nosed, tough, gritty competitor. You can tell that she lives and breathes this sport. This isn't a game to her. I think she's out there to win and put it on you. She's been a regular on the competition scene, I think, at all belt levels. She's always on the podium. And she's an aggressive competitor who's out there to, attack you the whole time. And I love that mentality. I like people that are confident, they're going out there to win, and people that when you've competed against them, you feel it after. And she strikes me as the kind of girl that's like that. She has really some beautiful passing work that's really gritty, relentless, aggressive from the guard, not just looking to sort of stall and hold position. She's always working for a sweep. She's always looking to submit you. She's always looking to pass and get to the back. And just a real suffocating pressure, I think, on top. And I've seen the look on some of the girls' faces that she competes against, and they're like, oh shit, kind of when they lock up with her. What I've noticed from watching her matches is that she really sets a great pace, and you can just tell by how, tenacious she is. I feel like in a lot of her matches, I can just see that she wants it more than the other people. I really like watching Janine compete. She's a beast out there, and doing great things for the women's scene, and no doubt will be on top of some major podiums in the near future. All right, number 6 on my list is a purple belt training out of Guardhouse BJJ named Jeff Campbell. This is a guy that I think is more in the up-and-coming sort of category. This is a guy that's, again, quietly putting together a fantastic resume. 2019 Provincials gold, no-gi gold. I think he moved up a weight class and won gold there as well. Absolute bronze medal, silver medal at the Ontario Open in the gi. This is a guy, I think, that has a wrestling background as well as some MMA experience. What I really like about Jeff is that he, even though he has a wrestling and an MMA background, this is a guy that's not afraid to mix it up in a variety of styles and formats. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, he competes in the gi, he competes no gi, he'll fight off his back, he'll take you down, he'll play guard, he'll pass your guard. There's a lot of guys that I think that get good at wrestling and just want to be on top the whole time. They're going to use their wrestling, whether it's gi or no gi. They're going to stay on top, a lot of pressure, but he's a guy that's very dangerous in a lot of different areas. I saw him at the last Parabellum Quintet. He had this really slick... so first of all, he got a sick ankle pick and had the guy's back, but he got out of it, found himself on the bottom, but just pulled off this like slick sort of Craig Jones-esque Z-guard triangle setup against a really tough purple belt, and got the finish there. So he competes in the gi, competes no gi. He'll compete in tournaments with points. He'll compete in submission only, even in the gi. I love that. I love that mentality. I love that passion of willing to do it all. A guy that just seems to love competition. And on top of that, he's also a software developer. So he's really smart as well. So awesome. Way to take all the talent. Jeff, thanks for sharing none of it. Jeff seems like a name that I think is on the upswing. I think it's somebody that if you're not familiar with, you really should check out some of his matches, whether it's online or in the future, whether it's gi or no gi. Really exciting, and a guy that I like to see compete whenever I can. All right, guys, number 7 on my list is a guy that I've been a fan of for a very long time. His name is Michael Sheehan. He's training out of Toronto BJJ. Easily one of the top brown belts in the country. I mean, that's not disputable at all. He's got a resume that really speaks for itself. This is a guy with a ton of local and international competition experience. He's represented Canada 3 times at the Jiu-Jitsu International World Championships, 17-time IBJJF Open champion, World Pros, Europeans, no-gi, Pan Ams. He does it all, gi and no-gi. He's unbelievable. He was selected as an instructor for Roll Chasers Toronto edition this year. And really what was cool is I've seen this guy compete for a long time, and I remember an article being published about him in 2015 from BJJ Canada. And this is, back when he was a blue belt, and I think he had only like 3.5 years of training experience. But in 2015, when this article was published, he won the IBJJF No-Gi Worlds, as well as the IBJJF Toronto, Montreal, New York Open. He won the Abu Dhabi Pro Trials in Toronto. He won tournaments in Ontario and in Quebec. And in the title of the article, they called him a blue belt beast. Well, now he is a brown belt beast, and that is undeniable. What I really like about this kid, though, is the passion and dedication that he has for the sport. In the article, even back when he was a blue belt training, he's talked about how he was doing 2 to 3 sessions a day on top of going to school. And, that's remarkable, especially for a guy that was having a lot of success. I've seen a lot of people over the years that have tremendous talent, they have tremendous skill, they have a lot of success, and, things start to get a little bit easier. He's teaching out of Toronto BJJ, people look up to him, he's getting noticed, and sometimes that sort of dampens the fire in some people. And sometimes it kind of, they become complacent, they feel like they've accomplished what they wanted to, and they sort of, it starts to affect them negatively. But he strikes me as the kind of guy that just lights his fire even more. And I think that, when you see people that are doing well and they continue to stay hungry despite success, I think that's when you're seeing something truly special in a competitor. And this is a case of, incredible dedication and high-level skill meeting in the middle. And that's why you're seeing such remarkable medals and outcomes for this guy. He's just doing everything right. And, but what I really like about him from every level that I've seen him compete is just this relentless, constant attacking pressure, no matter what he's doing, gi, no gi. There was a quote that I saw actually on one of its Instagram posts, and it said under the picture, it said, "Thriving, not surviving, finding a way." And I think that really captures him as a grappler, because he's not out there to just sort of win and eke by. He's out there to put it on his opponent. He's always looking to finish. He's always has that spirit of wanting to submit his opponent. And I almost say he has like a controlled fury out there. Like, he's very intense, very focused. But it's not reckless the way that he attacks. It's relentless, but it's incredibly highly technical. He's so dynamic. He's so explosive. His passing is unbelievable. His sweeps are unbelievable. Just constant movement. He's a passing machine. And, I don't feel like this guy could honestly be boring if he tried. Like, if somebody said, here's $100, go out and have a boring match, I just don't believe it's like in his DNA to be able to do that. there was actually a really cool recent highlight of him on BJJ Scout where they showed this really slick lapel choke that he pulls off from side control. So this is a guy, again, with a full arsenal of skills and somebody that it doesn't matter what the score is. It just seems like he's programmed to go out there and try to find the finish. So this is somebody that, again, you should really keep an eye on. I would be shocked if you haven't heard his name yet, but Michael Sheehan is a guy that's been making waves for a long time. I have no doubt that he's going to be a black belt soon, and this is a guy that, rest assured, you will see on the top of major podiums to come at brown belt and eventually black belt. Training with Nathan DeSantos, it's no surprise that he's so good because obviously, as I talked about earlier, Nathan is an unbelievable technical beast. Clearly, there's something in the water over there at Toronto BJJ. George Brito obviously doing great things, just churning out a huge stable of competitors. And this is a guy that I don't ever want to miss when I see his name in a tournament or a competition or whatever. So make sure you check out Michael Sheehan. All right, number 8 on my list is Michael Aviado. He is a black belt, I believe, under the Body of 4 banner. Another sort of master's level competitor, but just a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal resume. I mean, what hasn't this guy won? I think he's, a Pan's gold medalist. He's won World Masters, both gi and no gi, multiple years, consecutive years. I think he's no-gi Naga Worlds. Again, you'll see a trend here. Clearly, I like people that can take the gi off and compete at a high level, can compete in the gi at a high level. Personally, I find that incredibly difficult to do because I think in a lot of ways the games are growing, like gi and no-gi are growing kind of in opposite directions, so to speak. Some of the skills are different, but Michael's a guy that just, seems like he can do it all. He's clearly a guy that loves to compete. He gives back to the sport. He's always refereeing, but just, an amazing competitor. Like even, let alone masters, this guy has the athleticism of a 19-year-old. It's incredible to watch him compete. He's very agile. He's very crafty. He's super technical. I saw him compete live at I think it was the first Parabellum Quintet, and he hit this unbelievable flying triangle into an arm lock. So a guy that, has a full arsenal of skills. He can take you down. He can pass your guard. He can play off his back. He can throw flying submissions. So he's a great combination of athleticism and high-level skill, amazing guard passing, positional control, submissions. Just a really fun guy to watch that brings a lot of action. He's a lighter guy, but strikes me as the kind of grappler that also has a lot of power, a lot of strength, a lot of explosiveness. He's fun to watch. He seems like a great guy, and he's aging like a fine wine. Okay, so shout out to Michael Aviado. You're a beast. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm sure everybody's heard of this guy already, but if you haven't, definitely check him out anytime you can on any card that his name appears on. All right, number 9 is a no-brainer. This is a guy named Phan. I believe he's under the Toronto BJJ banner, black belt. I mean, honestly, what can I say about this guy that, hasn't been said already? I mean, he's been competing at the world level since a juvenile. I think he got second place at the Worlds as a brown belt. I mean, this guy's medal haul is probably my whole house probably isn't big enough to keep all his medals in. He's even got his own page on BJJ Heroes, for God's sake. So just phenomenal guard work. I mean, some of the slickest and most precise Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu I've ever seen. He just seems to win everything at the highest level. And just somebody that it's really cool to have somebody that high caliber just in our backyard in Toronto. Somebody I've never had a chance to roll with, but Phan is a name that most people know and should be familiar with. I feel like every time I watch this guy roll, it's a master class in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So much fun to watch. Amazing transitions, amazing scrambles, back takes, guard passes, positional control, submissions, whatever. This guy is a real elite jiu-jitsu grappler. Somebody that is super fun to watch. Definitely check out Eric anytime you can. If he's doing a seminar somewhere, go to it. You're going to learn a ton. And somebody that is definitely one of the most exciting grapplers locally and in the country. All right, number 10 is a guy named Kyle Sleeman. This is a recent black belt training at a Bruckman's MMA. I think he's gotten all his belts under Justin Bruckman. Competes at the Masters level. I mean, this guy is like a lifelong martial artist. He's medaled at tons of different events. He's got a lot of different styles of martial arts under his belt. But this is a guy that, truly lives and breathes the sport. This is a guy that, doesn't take any shortcuts from nutrition to training to drilling. I mean, this is a guy that puts everything he's got into competition. I think he takes every aspect of the sport seriously. And I really respect that kind of work ethic. But what I like about Kyle is that he's an incredibly aggressive competitor, He's very confident. He knows he puts the work in. He knows he has the skill. And he's very explosive and dynamic in his matches. I think they call him the Bull, Kyle the Bull Sleeman, for good reason. Just a guy that's going to come at you with a lot of speed, a lot of agility, athleticism, but real high-level technique as well. He can take you down. He can, pass your guard. He can submit you off his back. He can sweep you. What I really like about his game is, he's like an armbar collector. This guy has, highlight reel after highlight reel of these really intricate sweeps into incredibly fast and deep arm locks. He seems to like to play a bit of a lasso game where he sort of, plays under with the leg and sweeps you, but then just as you're hitting the ground, he's coming up and hitting a crazy arm lock. So a lot of highlights. I feel like, again, a guy that brings a lot of action, a great pace, a really game competitor, somebody that's constantly evolving, somebody that's constantly pushing himself. This is definitely a guy that I feel like is on the rise, so to speak. I mean, I know he's a black belt, but I think he's really starting to try to crack into the Masters world. He had a great performance in his first match at the Worlds this year. I think he beat the guy like 19-0 or something like that. So it's pretty cool to see people get steamrolled at that level. So really impressive. So Kyle's a really hungry, determined, intense competitor, somebody that brings a lot of intensity to his matches, a lot of activity, a lot of action. And more often than not, there's some sort of highlight at the end. So keep an eye out for Kyle Sleeman. Again, somebody that if I see his name on a card, I always like to try to check out his match. All right, guys, so that is my top 10 list of gi athletes that I find the most exciting to watch. Again, it's not an exhaustive list. There's just so many people in Canada and in Ontario that are amazing. It's not ranked in any order again. I tried to sprinkle in some kind of no-brainer names. I tried to throw in a few people that I thought were maybe more up-and-coming, some Masters athletes, just to kind of give a more well-rounded perspective. But yeah, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you learned maybe a couple names that you weren't as familiar with. As always, leave a comment below if you enjoyed the video. Let me know some people that I left out. Let me know people that you think are fun to watch and amazing that I should be keeping an eye on in the future. If you have any questions or comments for me, leave them below. You can also reach out to me on Instagram anytime and DM me. I'm at PFedMusic. If you have a question that you'd like for me to try to address in a video response, you could leave it here or in Instagram. So I'm here, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm all over the damn place, so find me wherever you can. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you got something out of this, guys, and I will see you in the next one.